All right, y'all. This is part one of having multiple children with multiple people out of wedlock. Um, Let me just first start out by saying this. My children are not mistakes, and neither are yours. I feel like I need to say that because what became confusing for me was when people judged or complained about my situation. It was almost like they were handing me that baby was a mistake. So it's too many people in the world that can't conceive children. And there's even more people that make the decision not to have children only to later on decide that they wish they would have had children. So I think that those of us that have children, we're blessed that we were afforded the opportunity to give life despite what anybody else may have to say about your situation. I just want to put that out there. For me, my children have helped me get by in the wilderness. I don't know who or where I would be if it were not for them. So I just want to give you all a little bit of it ain't even a little bit, y'all. I'm gonna try my best to condense the background. Keep in mind, this is part one of having multiple children with multiple people out of wedlock. So I was born a little bit, I'm gonna say a little bit because I'm over it, but it was a little bit of a family secret. The man I thought was my father was not my father. I found that out actually later in life. Then I say it was a family secret because when it came out, I found out that my family actually knew about it. It was one of them things where you like find out something and then you're looking around the room and you start to realize that everybody knew but you. That's the moment that I had. That was a tough pill to swallow for me, and I'm gonna tell you guys why. So basically he made sure my family understood that my mother was pregnant when he met her, and he was making sure that everybody understood that regardless of what went on with him and my mom, that he was going to raise me as his child. Now, this is just what I'm getting from it. I'll be honest with you all. I honestly don't know what decisions was made, how all this came about. I wasn't there during the conversation. I think my mom was like 4 months when they met, something like that. And the man who was supposed to be my biological father, he didn't want her to have me, and his parents didn't want her to have me either. So from what I'm understanding, he was not to have anything else to do with her or her child, her unborn child. So then my then father comes along, he meets her, and I'm sorry, y'all, they got fireworks going off in the background. So y'all excuse that noise. That's what that is. And it was one of those instances where regardless of what went on between them, I would always have a father. So he was really the only father that I ever knew. Less than a year after I was born, they had their own child. Now, I'd be lying if I said that them having their own child didn't affect me. It was one of those things where I did feel as though I was being unfairly treated. And I'm going to say I can't really, at the age I'm at now, I can understand how that can happen. I mean, you think about it. You decide, you meet someone, they have kids, and you loving on their kids, and then all of a sudden you birth yours for the first time. So I get it. But as a kid then, it was one of those things where I felt the unfairness. You know what I mean? So I wasn't being beaten. I wasn't abused or anything like that. I was kept clean. I ate and everything. But it was just one of those things where I knew that there was a difference being made between us. I found out he wasn't my father when I was 17. Now, let me tell you what this did to me mentally, because I am one of those people who I'm a strategic thinker. I think fast, on the fly. Trust me, I've just gotten control over this gift in the last 3 years. I kid you not. So what happened when I found this out at 17, it was like there was a rewind button pushed in my head, because every instant that I was questioning about being treated unfairly came rushing to the forefront. And it was like, yeah, but I don't understand why, and I don't think that that's fair, and why this, and how come that? And every answer for it was because he's not your father, because he's not your father, because he's not your father, because he's not your father. That's how that was going through my mind. And then to find out that everybody actually already knew except me, it made it that much worse. So my mom became a drug addict when I was 9, and my then father left her because of it. And I didn't get to see him as much, but I still thought he was my father. In a nutshell, I grew up being raised by my mother's family, mostly my granny. And I bounced from family member house to family member house. Now, keep in mind, I lacked affection, a parent's love, parental affirmation, guidance, emotional support from parents. I suffered from a spirit of rejection, abandonment. I developed this like foster care culture because of how I moved around a lot without ever getting back to my biological parents. And what I mean by foster care culture is this, in my opinion, is that being in foster care, you go from house to house and you're made to feel uncomfortable because technically it's not your house. I went from house to house. There were rules. I was uncomfortable going in the refrigerator. I wasn't sure if it was the right time to do laundry. Are their kids okay with me being here? The only difference between foster care and what I was doing is that these were my relatives' houses. Now, again, I wasn't mistreated or anything like that, but this wasn't my house. It was theirs. So that's what I meant by that. You know what I found odd is that the word foster means to encourage or promote the development of something. But the meaning of foster care is like a system where a minor is in a group home or a private home for somebody that's licensed by the state. So when you take the word foster and you add the word care to it, you actually pull out encourage and development out of the original meaning. I think that's I'm sorry. I just found it odd. That's just me. That killed me when I was researching this, and I was like, how you take encourage and development out of foster because you add foster care? So is this what they're supposed to be doing in foster care? Why not leave the word? I don't know. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I digress when things seem like they just a little funky to me. So growing up, I found, and this is crazy, y'all, I actually found comfort in the men that shared similar cycles and traumas with me. Now, this was not something that I did intentionally. I wasn't aware of my cycles and traumas back then. So here's the thing. I mostly dated D-boys. Now, this is what's crazy. I had my first child with a D-boy. His father was a recovering drug addict. At the time, my mother was a drug addict, and he was selling dope. There was no way we should have been together. You don't know these things when you're coming out. I can laugh about it now, but it was, I mean, I believe we loved each other, but our backgrounds seemed too similar to think we could educate one another into greatness. Like, what we lacked commonly was detrimental to the relationship. Like, it was crazy. So he proposed when I got pregnant. And of course I said yes. I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over my little D-boy. And then it was kind of like, the longer we stayed together, the more he seemed like someone I'd no longer recognized. What ended up happening is that there was so much that began to happen to him and around us, especially after high school. So my granny had always told me, baby, if you get a baby, while you're young, always, always, always go back and get that piece of paper. You need your education. My grandma used to always tell me that, y'all. And though I got pregnant the summer after graduation, I was in college the next spring. And it seemed like the more drugs he sold, the more different we became. I hope I'm making sense, y'all. So I'll put it to you like this. When he was doing his first bit, I was doing my first semester in college. So right there, it's almost like, okay, y'all going in two different directions. So it seemed like the more I strived to educate myself, the more cases he started to catch, because that bit wasn't his first bit. It wasn't his last either. So eventually we kind of grew apart. He went on to have multiple children with multiple women, and I went on to have multiple children with multiple men. So 5 years after my first child, I got pregnant by another D-boy. That story was one I was going to explain, but I don't even think it's worth it. So basically what ended up happening is that we got together under some real horrible things. It was one of those things where it was like you get caught in a love triangle that you ain't trying to get caught in. And what ended up happening, he was spending a whole lot of time with me. I thought he was in love with me and everything. We were spending a whole lot of time together until one of the ladies that I work with, she was so cool. We were really cool. Came to me and told me, you know, she was like, I'm going to tell you where I think he may live at. And I'm like, what do you mean? She was like, I don't think he's telling you the whole truth. And I rode with what she was saying because I wanted to hear it, but at the same time, I was like, okay, let me think this through. I don't want to be too accusatory, and this may or may not be the truth. Now, ladies, let me explain something to y'all, because this also happened to me. What I'm getting ready to explain to you all. So, what happens sometimes is that you'll have a close friend. Now, she and I were co-workers, but we were cool. Sometimes you'll have a very close friend, somebody that's your lifer, they your ride or die, and they'll give you information about the person that you're with that you really don't want to hear. Understand that when they give you this information, they're risking their relationship with you. They cannot compete. Who was that said that? Queen Latifah and Girls Trip. They can't compete with pillow talk. This your BFF and this your man. Your BFF cannot give you what your man been giving you. So oftentimes what we do is we want to be confrontational with our man the minute they give us the information, then suck in all of that information he gives us, because all he doing is getting ready to tell you whatever it is you need to hear to calm you down in that instant. But that person just risked the relationship because now you're going to choose this man over this person. This is usually how it goes. I'm not saying this everybody's relationship. I ain't saying this everybody's friendship. But it does tend to go that way. Understand, if this is your ride or die friend, though, that they knew that they were risking the relationship when they got ready to tell you that. The other side of this is that don't be too accusatory. A lot of times you all miss out on your husband because you're too accusatory because of what the last person did to you. Understand, when you start a new relationship, what you should have done after that last relationship is went through and did an accountability check. What is it that you could have done differently in that relationship? What is it that you're not trying to take into the new relationship? And what is it that you will not tolerate in the new relationship? Just because you won't tolerate cheating don't mean you go and start being accusatory. Understand who it is you're dealing with and get to know the person you're dating. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. In my case, the mess was true. I was finna cuss because I got mad about it real quick. In my case, it was actually true. So I eventually went and sat down the street from where he lived. I saw him, a woman, and some kids come out the house. And I knew that he had like 2 sisters. So I still didn't want to just jump the gun, because I'm like, well, what if this is his sister's house and he comes over here and helps her with these kids sometime, you know? So I sat a few more times. And do your research first. Don't just jump all in going off. I want to do my research a little bit. So I did it a few more times, and it was like, okay, yeah, he over here for a minute. It's morning and I'm on my way to work and he's still here. Okay. So when I confronted him, and this is what I mean when I say they'll put us in a love triangle and you don't even know it. So he was honest, but he wasn't honest. This is that thing where you didn't sign up for the love triangle, but you've been dating the person so long, and this is what I was given. Now I know at least one of y'all done been handed this. This is what I was given. Yeah, but we having problems and I'm just trying to be there for my kids. Baby. So here's where mine went wrong. I get all of this information and then find out I'm pregnant. My kid's here now. I'm laughing to keep from crying. So, I know I needed out of that relationship. And the sad part about it is that while I was pregnant was his first time hitting me. And eventually the woman left him, and his assumption was that, well, we gonna be a family. But he had already been putting his hands on me. So in my mind, I'm carrying this baby. This man is crazy and I need to be out of this. So I said he had Ike Turner syndrome. He a D-boy. He don't know no better. He basically felt as though he could fix everything with material things and money. You know, he want to come in with gifts after he did put his hands on me and all that other stuff. And I was naive but educated enough to know that all he knew how to do was count grams and money. So that right there kind of tells you how deep my daddy issues kind of ran. When he became apologetic and showed some type of falsified affection, I fell for it. I mean, it was, I can't even explain the mentality. Most people will sit there and say, that's just dumb. You just being dumb. You don't know internally what somebody has went through. So stop calling people that choose to stay in abusive relationships dumb. You don't know what they're yearning for that person is actually giving them. I can sit here today and say, no, that's not something I would ever tolerate again. But when you go back over that list of things that I was lacking, the fact that he gave me, I didn't know what affection was. I didn't. My mom, I had been bouncing around from house to house since I was 9. How the hell I know anything? Ain't nobody picking me up, hugging me, talking about it's going to be okay. No. So I didn't know nothing about affection. I didn't know nothing about, men giving me gifts and things like that. None of that was really, but I knew I wanted it. I wanted a male to actually love me. I wanted a male to actually want me. I wanted someone to give me some type of attention. And he was a D-boy. So my hair was done. My nails was done. I'm sitting in the front seat of whatever flashy car he driving with his rims and everything. I felt like I was somebody. So in my mind, it was kind of like, do you give this up and go back to being nothing to everybody else? I'm trying to give it to y'all in a nutshell. I know mentally it was way more than that, but I'm trying to give it to you all in a nutshell. So that if you all are dealing with someone who is enduring verbal, physical, emotional abuse with somebody that they're with, and you all are sitting there and saying, I don't understand how you can stay in that. You don't know what they're lacking internally that person may be providing to them. I'm not saying it's good. I don't condone the mess at all. But I know for me what it was that caused me to struggle with leaving. And even when I did leave, I had to have my Tina Turner moment in the back of the limousine with him. He wasn't letting me go without a fight. So, and I came to find out that his traumas with his parents ran deep. I was unfamiliar with how unhealthy his responsive behavior was because of what he was going through with his parents. It took a lot before I was secure enough in myself to leave that relationship completely, y'all. It took a lot. But I did it. And Jesus. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So I got pregnant with my third child 12 years after my middle daughter. And again, It was a lot. Yeah, that 12-year difference was a trip. My middle child doesn't suffer from middle child syndrome. She doesn't. I know. Anybody who know her knows she don't. But she is a Gemini. I actually think that's probably worse. When I tell you that one there, oh my God. Now she is somebody, she's all hugs and stuff, but like, yeah, you got to check and see who you talk to first in there before you go all in with her. Now, my third pregnancy actually came at a bad time. And what was going on is that I had lost my job because of a work injury. And her father was actually confused about whether or not he really wanted to be with me. He wasn't a D boy, but he was confusing as hell. So he wanted all the bells and whistles of a family, but didn't want to commit. It was crazy. I was surprised when he proposed at the baby shower. But it was suspect to me. Like, you living in the house with somebody, you know how they talking to you. You can pretty much gauge how they feeling about you. And it was like, this ninja want to marry me. All that, and he want to marry me. Okay, this is one of those instances where I'm pregnant and he feels as though this is the right thing to do. That's what I got out of it. And truth be told, it ended up being just that. The work injury caused me to lose my job prior to getting pregnant. And eventually my house. So I lived at 4 addresses with my last daughter's father before I had enough of the cheating and the verbal abuse. He was the first guy that I had been with that I actually had to rely on. That was so uncomfortable for me. I had always set myself up so that if anything happened, I would be okay. If this had to end tomorrow, I was going to be okay. My granny always told me that you need to always make sure you don't have to rely on a man. You know, sometimes they think less of you when you go from being independent to dependent. So be careful. Now, that's not every man. I don't want y'all to think I'm saying that that's every man. That is not every man. But what you want to be mindful of in any relationship is how do they act when they get down to their last? Are they willing to help others when they call them? Do they have siblings that they help out? Are they okay with helping their siblings with their kids? Can they parents, their older people, grandparents, can they rely on them to come through for them? Can they, if they call and say, I need you to do X, Y, Z, are they willing to do that? And here was a big one. Is lack of money in any way a trigger for the other person? You want to know how these people actually respond when things can get shaky. I ain't gonna say go bad, but if they get shaky, look at how they responding to it, because that kind of tell you what's gonna happen if it go bad. So for each of my children, because even the crazy one, he proposed when he started smelling that breakup coming on. And at that time I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then I had my Tina Turner moment. But for each child, there was an engagement, another woman that showed up after the child, and the engagement took place. Okay, so I know a lot of men are sitting there thinking, so what's wrong with you that they all cheated? I actually been asked that. Do men really think that because a woman don't have a man, or they a certain age, and they not married, that is something wrong with them? That's a fair question, because I think that y'all being accusatory when y'all approach us and feel as though we not worthy because we ain't got a man on our arm, and you sitting there like you got a good job, you look good, just smell good. Why you ain't got a man? What level of crazy are you? I had a dude ask me, what level of crazy are you? How many levels of narcissism is there? Isn't there like 4 levels of narcissism? I done dated some level 4s. It's 4 levels of nan traits, something like that. That's a shame. I shouldn't even be looking that up. I've realized in the last couple years that every dude I dated had some form of narcissism. I think it lives in everybody, to be honest with you. Even if it's just a little bit. These was extreme though. But I had daddy issues. Daddies are authority figures. So to me, because I lacked an authority figure and I wanted an authority figure, I think that mentally I was okay with the controlling thing. I think that may have, and I'm getting that revelation right now as I'm sitting here talking, y'all. That's crazy. So I'm gonna take the blame though. I'm gonna take one for the team for this and tell you all how it is that I am still single. Because part of this is my fault, and I'm going to tell y'all why. I need to give my mama and my granny credit for something. They raised me to be a Proverbs 31 woman. My mama, despite her circumstances, she has always taken care of her men. And they have always made sure that they provided for her. My granny was the same way. The way my granny took care of her men is the same way she took care of my uncles. So that was just something that I coveted. What they did not teach me though. Oh, Jesus. What they did not teach me is that not everybody is deserving of the Proverbs 31 woman in me. That part I didn't know. And I'm going to tell you how I went wrong with this, fellas. So what I did oftentimes than not is that I played wife to my boyfriends. Now, given the type of men I've dated, as y'all can see, there was no way that they could recognize what they had in me, let alone appreciate it. So, yes, that's where I gave too much of myself. That's where that went. So, that's the only thing I'm going to take credit for, baby. Because if I'm a Proverbs 31 woman, then I did everything else right. Know it. So, when the last relationship ended, I had to work hard as hell to get my life back on track, y'all. It was crazy. 3 kids and no financial support. So the part that was challenging for me, and I'm sure that this kind of goes without saying, but the part that was challenging for me is that I had allowed my womanhood and motherhood to be disrespected so much that I no longer knew who I was. Between what I lacked parentally and what I suffered from internally and how I allowed myself to be treated, I had completely lost me. In all of that, I just lost who I was. When that last relationship ended and I moved, I eventually lost everything all over again. And I say all over again because it wasn't the first time. I knew though that I could work any job and be good at it. I knew I could work 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet. That type of stuff. But that's robotic. What happens when I have to deal with me after losing me?